Today we're going to begin, as usual, with a quick daily do now task. Today we have a show you know task, a task that you're very familiar with. We've done multiple do nows to get you ready for the year. So right now I'd like you to open up to your daily do now spread, and I'd like you to look at the do now task, consider an appropriate answer, and then write it silently. All right, please begin. Thank you for completing your task so productively. Now, I've asked a couple students to help me provide some examples of appropriate responses for this do now task. And I've asked Kimberly and Chris for some assistance. But first, let's look at the frame. And you had 2 blanks to complete, and in one you needed to put the correct form of our word to go, perspective, and content that made sense. So let's look at this frame. When writing a final draft, teachers and students often have different and pencils up if you're confident that you know what the correct form of our word to go is. That would go right here, all right? That you're confident. And help us out, Ariana. What do you think would make sense here?
Perspectives.
And want to say that one more time for me?
Perspectives.
Right, so I heard an S on the end, perspectives. Let's all say that. Perspectives. And Ariana, what led you to write perspectives?
The S is at the end of teachers and students.
Right, and so the S on the end of teachers and students told you what about those words?
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people. And it's the plural form. You're right, it's the plural form. Pencil up if you have another clue. Besides the S on teachers and students that showed that plural, what made you, Ivan, know that we needed the plural form there as well? Have. And what does have signal to you? What about have? You're right. You're right. Have. What kind of verb is that? Singular or plural?
Plural.
It's plural. So it's a plural verb. Does anyone else have one more clue? We have the plural verb. We have teachers and students. That means many people. Help us out, please.
It does have the word of.
Huh?
It does have the word of.
Yeah, there isn't the word there isn't the word and would tell us it's how many perspectives? Just one, just one. So very well done. We know the correct form, we need the plural there, but now we need to look at some content that makes sense. And as I was considering content that made sense, I thought that being an English teacher, I know that I have different perspectives than my students often about the accuracy of their proofreading. There are issues with their proofreading. And as I walked around the room, I saw that many of you had responses that had to do with proofreading. And Kimberly, would you be so kind as to read your response in your eloquent public voice?
When writing a final draft, teachers and students often have different perspectives about grammar, such as run-on sentences.
Right. I really appreciated Kimberly's response because she gave a really clear example too of grammar, different perspectives about grammar, and she offered that, such as run-on sentences. All right, excellent. Very thoughtful response. And Chris had an equally thoughtful response. Chris, would you read yours now in your public voice?
When you are writing a final draft, teachers and students often have different perspectives about punctuation, grammar, and details to support your topic.
And I loved that he had punctuation, grammar, and details to support your topic. Now, you are going to have an opportunity to evaluate your own response right now. So let's look at our rubric. Our rubric, the first element of our rubric that you need to consider about your own response is, did you complete the daily do now? And you can all immediately give yourself a 1 because you did. Give yourself a tally that you completed the daily do now. So you want to evaluate your own response. So did you use vocabulary accurately? And if you had perspective, and you spelled it correctly, and you had the S on the end, you've used our target word, our word to go correctly. So if you had perspectives and you spelt it correctly, you get another tally. So give yourself another tally. Our third scoring item is, did you add content that is relevant? And as I walked around the room, I saw very relevant content from different perspectives about details, about topic sentences, about grammar, about punctuation. So if you feel that your content was relevant, like Chris's, like Kimberly's, then please give yourself another 1. And finally, the grammar. You needed to make sure to have the S on perspectives, and after about, we need to have sort of a noun phrase. We need a descriptive noun phrase, like the correctness of the spelling, or the accuracy of the grammar, or the amount of details. So check to see if your content that you provided is with correct grammar. So as you can see, all of the aspects of your daily do now receive 1 point, except for the vocabulary that receives 2 points. All right, you've each scored your own. Now you're going to have an opportunity to score your partners. What we're going to do first is have partners read your response to each other and just listen to it. Then I'd like you to exchange portfolios and evaluate. So I'd like to begin with my A's. Where are my A's, please? A's. A's, I would like you to read your do now response, then to look at your partner, make eye contact, and say it with expression. And B's, you know the routine. You're going to restate. And what are we going to say? So what you're saying is, okay, so what you're saying is, and if they got it correct, what are you going to say? Yes, that's exactly right. All right? Or yes, that's correct. All right, A's, please begin reading your do now sentence.
When writing a final draft, teachers and students often have different perspectives about grammar such as punctuation. When writing a final draft, when writing a final draft, teachers and students often have different perspectives about grammar such as punctuation.
So what you're saying is that when writing a final draft, teachers and students often have different perspectives about grammar and punctuation.
Yes, that's correct.
When writing a final draft, teachers and students often have different perspectives about punctuation and more details. When writing a final draft, teachers and students often have different perspectives about punctuation and more details.
So what you're saying is that when writing a final draft, teachers and students often have different perspectives about grammar and details.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Now, you've had an opportunity to listen to your partner's verbal response. Now exchange portfolios and read your partner's response very carefully and responsibly, and then give your partner the amount of tallies that he or she deserves. Score your partner's do now response.